March 17th, 1940. The icy North Atlantic, 400 miles west of Ireland. Waves crash like thunder against the hull of the SS Dunoon, a weathered freighter laden with crates of tinned meat and ammunition bound for British ports. You can almost feel the salt spray stinging your face as the wind howls through the rigging, carrying the faint, acrid tang of diesel from the Convoy's escort ships. Captain Elias Hargrove grips the bridge rail, his knuckles white, eyes scanning the horizon where the sea merges seamlessly with the slate-grey sky. The convoy stretches out in a ragged line, 20 merchant vessels zigzagging in a desperate bid to evade the invisible hunters beneath the waves. "Keep her steady, Mr. Wilkins," Hargrove barks, his voice cutting through the groan of the engines. The first officer nods, adjusting the wheel as the ship pitches violently. It's been 3 days since they left Halifax, and the tension coils tighter with every hour. Radio silence is the rule, no chatter, no lights after dusk, but whispers among the crew tell of the wolf packs, those German U-boats prowling in coordinated packs, sinking dozens of ships each month. Last convoy lost 8 vessels in a single night. Hargrove pushes the thought down, focusing on the faint silhouettes of the destroyers HMS Wolverine and HMS Verity flanking the group, their screws churning the water white. Below decks, in the dim hold lit by swaying lanterns, young able seaman Tommy Riley huddles with his mates, sharing a cigarette. The air is thick with the smell of rust and unwashed bodies. "Heard the Krauts have some new trick," Riley mutters, exhaling smoke that curls like ghosts. "Codes they change every day. Our boys can't touch 'em." His friend, a wiry Scotsman named Mac, snorts. "Aye, but we're armed now, depth charges and all." Yet doubt lingers. The Allies' codebreakers at Bletchley Park are still fumbling in the dark, piecing together fragments from intercepted Enigma messages that seem like gibberish, random letters spat out by a machine the Germans swear is unbreakable. Suddenly the deck shudders. A low rumble vibrates through the hull and alarms blare. "Torpedo! Starboard side!" someone yells from the lookout. Chaos erupts. Hargrove lunges for the alarm klaxon as the convoy scatters, ships veering wildly. You hear the whistle of the incoming fish, a German Type 7 U-boat's prize, the G7A torpedo, slicing through the water at 40 knots. It strikes the lead tanker amidships with a deafening roar, flames erupting skyward in a bloom of orange and black smoke. Men scream as the sea swallows them whole, oil slicks igniting on the waves. Hargrove's heart pounds as Wolverine charges forward, her ass-stick pinging frantically for the submerged predator. Depth charges roll off the destroyer's stern, exploding in geysers that rock the ocean. But it's too late for the tanker. She lists, her bow plunging under. The wolf pack has struck again, U-99 under Otto Kretschmer, the tonnage wolf, leading the hunt. From the conning tower of his boat, Kretschmer peers through the periscope, the green glow of the attack plotter illuminating his sharp features. "Surface bearing 270, he orders calmly in German, his voice steady amid the creak of pressure hulls. The Enigma machine hums in the radio room, its rotors whirring as signals bounce to U-boat command in France. Positions encrypted, convoy routes sealed tighter than a drum. Back on the Dunoon, Riley scrambles topside, pulling on a life jacket as another explosion lights the night, this time a freighter astern. The air reeks of burning fuel and cordite. Hargrove grabs the radio, breaking silence for the first time. "Convoy under attack, U-boats, multiple contacts." Static crackles in response. Help is hours away. The Verity fires her 4.7-inch guns blindly into the dark, shells whistling overhead. But the U-boats are ghosts, diving deep, their hydrophones catching every splash. Kretschmer's pack, 5 boats strong, circles like sharks, Enigma keeping their formation secret. By dawn, half the convoy is gone, twisted wreckage bobbing, survivors clinging to rafts in the freezing water. You drift through the debris, the cold seeping into your bones, the cries of the wounded echoing over the waves. This is the Battle of the Atlantic at its bloodiest. German convoys, no, Allied convoys, untouchable in their vulnerability. From 1939 to 1941, U-boats have sunk over 1,000 ships, nearly breaking Britain's supply lines. Churchill himself called it the only campaign that ever kept him awake at night. The key, the Enigma cipher. A portable electromechanical device invented by Arthur Scherbius in the 1920s, now the backbone of Kriegsmarine communications. 3 rotors, a plug board, reflector, billions of possible settings changed daily. Intercepts flood into British listening posts at Scarborough and Chicksands. But decryption is a nightmare. Analysts pore over perforated tapes from Bombay machines, guessing wheel orders, but success is rare. One break every few weeks, too late to save lives. Far from the Atlantic's fury, in a quiet corner of pre-war Poland, a different battle rages, not with torpedoes, but with mathematics. It's 1932. Bletchley Park's future codebreakers still in school, when 3 Polish cryptologists, Marian Rejewski, Jerzy Rojicki, and Henryk Zygalski, stare at captured Enigma frames in a Warsaw bureau. Rejewski, a lanky 26-year-old with wire-rimmed glasses and a mind like a steel trap, adjusts his slide rule under the harsh fluorescent light. The room smells of ink and cigarette smoke. Outside, snow dusts the Vistula River. The Germans think this machine is invincible, Rejewski says softly to his colleagues, his voice carrying the weight of exile. Poland, squeezed between Nazis and Soviets, knows invasion looms. They've been at it for months, funded by French intelligence leaks of early Enigma specs. Rojicki sketches permutations on a blackboard, chalk dust floating like fog. The plug board randomizes 10 pairs, 150 million combinations alone, he mutters. Zygalski nods, punching keys on a prototype cyclometer, a device Rejewski designed to trace message chains. No computers yet, just logic and permutations. Rejewski's breakthrough comes late one night, alone with a thermos of weak tea. He realizes the Enigma's flaw. It never encrypts a letter to itself. By exploiting cribs, known plaintext like weather reports, he maps the rotor wirings mathematically, treating the machine as a permutation group. Their Polish bomber, an electromechanical beast of relays and drums, cracks daily settings in hours. By 1938, as Hitler eyes Danzig, the Poles hand over blueprints to British and French allies at a clandestine meeting in Peary Forest. Rejewski watches the MI6 officers depart, blueprints tucked under coats, a knot in his stomach. This could shorten the war, he whispers to Rojicki. But war comes swift. September 1939, German tanks roll into Poland. The team flees to Romania, then France, their work scattered like ashes. Back in the Atlantic 1940, as the Dunoon limps into Liverpool with her cargo half spent, Hargrove wonders if salvation will ever come. Little does he know, Rejewski's ghost haunts the wires, his math the seed of ultra, the code word that will one day turn the tide. But for now, the wolf packs rule the waves, Enigma their unbreakable shield. The convoy survivors disembark to jeers from dockworkers. Another one that slipped through? Riley, soaked and shivering, vows revenge. The war machine grinds on, hungry for the break that will come. September 1939. The dim corridors of Bletchley Park, Buckinghamshire, England. Rain lashes the Victorian mansion's leaded windows, drumming a relentless tattoo that echoes through the wood-panelled halls. You can taste the damp wool of overcoats hanging in the foyer, mingling with the sharp scent of fresh varnish from the newly requisitioned huts sprouting like mushrooms across the grounds. Gordon Welchman, a stern-faced mathematician in his early 40s, strides purposefully toward Hut 8, his polished shoes clicking on the linoleum. His breath fogs slightly in the chill air. Coal fires in the common rooms do little to ward off the autumn bite. Papers rustle under his arm. Blueprints smuggled from Poland, now the lifeblood of Britain's most desperate gamble. Welchman pauses at the hut's door, glancing back at the park's sprawling estate. Once a country retreat for the elite, now a hive of secrecy guarded by barbed wire and stern-faced sentries. Inside, the air hums with the low buzz of typewriters and the faint ozone tang of electrical equipment. Alan Turing, dishevelled in a tweed jacket, hunches over a cluttered desk, his pale fingers dancing across a replica Enigma machine. The device's keys click like impatient Morse code, lamps flickering erratically above the keyboard. "The plugboard's the devil," Turing mutters to himself, his voice a soft Oxford drawl cutting through the murmur of aides. He's 27, already a legend from Cambridge, but here exhaustion etches lines around his eyes. Polish refugees' notes litter the table, Rejewski's cyclometer diagrams annotated in meticulous script. Across the room, a team of Wrens, Women's Royal Naval Service, feeds perforated tapes into the bomb, the British evolution of the Polish bomber. The machine whirs to life, its drums spinning with a mechanical growl that vibrates the floorboards. Sparks occasionally fly from overloaded circuits, casting fleeting shadows on the walls papered with crib sheets. Guessed plaintexts like "Wetter" for weather reports or "Heil" salutes. Welchman enters, nodding to Turing. "Any progress on the naval settings?" "Donitz's boats are chewing through our convoys like wolves." Turing straightens, pushing wire-rimmed glasses up his nose. "The rotors are the key. 5 now, for the M4 naval Enigma. Rejewski's math gives us a starting point, but the daily keys, it's like chasing smoke." Flash to the Polish border, weeks earlier. Marian Rejewski, now 33, flees Warsaw as panzers thunder across the plains. The air reeks of cordite and burning timber. Refugees clog the roads in horse-drawn carts, their faces gaunt with fear. Rejewski clutches a battered suitcase, blueprints sewn into the lining. His bomber schematics, permutations reduced to elegant equations. Jerzy Różycki drives the rickety Fiat, engine sputtering over rutted paths. "The British will use it," Różycki says, his voice tight, glancing in the rear view at pursuing dust clouds. Henryk Zygalski, squeezed in the back, clutches a satchel of replica Enigmas stolen from a German warehouse. "If they don't, we're ghosts anyway." They cross into Romania under cover of night, bribing border guards with gold watches. Bucharest's safe house is a stifling attic, alive with the skitter of rats and the distant wail of air raid sirens. War's shadow lengthening. By October, Rejewski arrives in France, spirited to the Château de Vignoles, near Paris. The team reforms in a stone-walled office, overlooking vineyards heavy with unharvested grapes. Sun filters through cracked shutters, but the mood is leaden. French 12e Bureau officers pace, cigarettes dangling from lips. "Your bomber works miracles," Colonel Gustave Bertrand tells Rejewski, his mustache twitching. "We've cracked Luftwaffe traffic, bombing runs rerouted twice." Rejewski nods, sketching rotor paths on graph paper. The pencils scratch the only sound. But naval Enigma eludes them. U-boat signals, prefixed weather short signal, are a labyrinth. Różycki pores over intercepts, his brow furrowed. "The Germans added a 4th rotor in 37. Our cyclometers can't handle it without upgrades." Back at Bletchley, winter bites harder. December 1939. Snow dusts the park's lawns, crunching under the boots of arriving recruits. Linguists, chess masters, crossword puzzle whizzes plucked from civilian life. You feel the frost seeping through your gloves as you imagine joining them, breath clouding in the queue for Hut 6's orientation. Inside, the heat from overflowing ashtrays battles the cold. The room reeks of tobacco and instant coffee brewed on Bunsen burners. Welchman briefs the new blood. "Gentlemen and ladies, this is Ultra, not a weapon but intelligence. Every decrypted message could save a ship." He unveils a blackboard scrawled with Rejewski's theorems, permutation cycles, the Enigma's Achilles heel that no letter encrypts to itself. Turing's team iterates furiously. In Hut 8, a Bombay menu is born, logical chains to test rotor orders. The first success comes haltingly. A crib on a U-boat report yields August, aligning with the month's key. Lamps on the Enigma replica light up in sequence, decoding a fragment. Positions off Iceland, a wolf pack forming. Welchman rushes it to the Admiralty, heart racing, but delays plague them. Bombs take 20 hours for a full run, and U-boat keys change at midnight. Meanwhile, across the channel, U-47 under Günther Prien slips into Scarpa Flow, torpedoing the HMS Royal Oak. 900 dead, Enigma silent as the grave. France falls in May 1940. Rejewski watches from a train window as refugees swarm southern roads, the Pyrenees looming like a promise. The team scatters. Rojicki perishes in a shipwreck en route to Algeria, his loss a quiet ache. Rejewski reaches Vichy, then Algeria, his work funneled piecemeal to Britain via Bertrand's couriers. In Bletchley, Turing absorbs it all, refining the bomb into a 100-drum monster, relays clicking like a vast mechanical brain. By summer, Ultra flickers to life. Sporadic breaks on Army Enigma predict German troop movements in Norway. But the Atlantic remains a black void. Naval traffic, with its Bigram tables and shorter messages, defies them. August 1940, a convoy off the Hebrides. Captain Hargrove, survivor of the Dunoon, commands the SS Iran, her decks laden with Canadian wheat. Fog cloaks the sea, muffling the escort's propellers. Tension hums like a taut wire, rumors swirl of a code break. Below, Tommy Riley, promoted to leading seaman, scans the grey expanse with binoculars, salt crusting his lashes. "Heard Bletchley's got Polish tricks now," he tells Mac, sharing a pilfered chocolate bar. The Scotsman grunts. "About time. Lost me brother last run." Suddenly, Azdic pings, a U-boat shadow, but this time Admiralty warnings precede it. Ultra's first naval decrypt, Rejewski's legacy whispering through secure teleprinters. Destroyers HMS Walker and HMS Vanquisher peel off, depth charges primed. The U-boat dives, but her position betrays her, Enigma's veil thinning. Explosions rock the water, oil bubbling up. The Arran zigzags clear, cargo intact. Hargrove exhales on the bridge, the fog lifting like hope. In Bletchley, Turing smiles faintly at the confirmation slip. One wolfpack scattered, lives spared. Yet the war escalates. Dönitz deploys more boats, Enigma evolving. Rejewski, exiled in Algiers, toils in obscurity, unaware his equations echo across the waves. The tide turns, inch by mathematical inch, but the wolf packs howl on. May 1941, the cramped radio room of HMS Bulldog, churning through the mid-Atlantic swells 600 miles southwest of Iceland. Salt-crusted portholes frame a horizon blurred by squalls, rain lashing the steel like 1,000 frantic fingers. You can smell the stale sweat of the watch crew mingling with the metallic bite of overheated valves from the Type 271 radar set, its green glow casting eerie shadows on the bulkheads. Commander Joe Baker, a grizzled 38-year-old with a salt-and-pepper beard, scarred by a pre-war skirmish off Spain, hunches over the plotting table, his calloused fingers tracing grease pencil lines on the chart. The air hums with the Morse chatter from the Convoys merchantmen, HX-126, 38 ships heavy with Canadian timber, bauxite and frozen meat for the beleaguered factories of Liverpool. "Signals from Admiralty, sir," the yeoman signals rates, his voice barely audible over the engine's throb. Baker snatches the flimsy decrypt, eyes narrowing at the typed words. U-boat patrol line, grid AJ-27, 7 boats strong. No names, just coordinates. Ultra's whisper funneled through secure channels from Bletchley's teleprinters. Baker's pulse quickens. It's been months since those first Polish-routed breaks, but Dönitz's wolfpacks have grown bolder. Their Enigma traffic a daily deluge of weather shorts and position reports. "Helm, alter course to 090, signal the escorts, fan out, Azdic sweeps." The Bulldog's sister ship, HMS Amazon, acknowledges with a blinker, light piercing the gloom, her 4. 5-inch guns trained seaward. Below decks, in the dimly lit mess, able seaman Tommy Riley, now a seasoned lookout with a fresh scar across his cheek from a near-miss depth charge, shares a mug of Navy rum with his mate Mac. The deck pitches, sloshing the liquid in their tin cups. "Bletchley's ghosts again," Riley says, wiping foam from his lip. The rum's burn, chasing the chill. "Heard they cracked a full Wolfpack key last week. Poles started it, they say. Some math wizard named Rajewski." Mac nods, his eyes distant, remembering his brother's raft in the cold. "About bloody time. Lost 3 ships last convoy to that bastard Preen." Outside, the sea boils, whitecaps foaming like the breath of submerged hunters. U-556, under Captain Lieutenant Herbert Wolfarth, lurks at periscope depth 20 miles east, her diesel engines idling to a whisper. In the control room, lit by red battle lamps, Wolfarth adjusts the UZO sight, the scope's rubber eye cup cool against his skin. "Enigma to command, convoy bearing 270, speed 9 knots, he murmurs to the radioman, who feeds the message into the M4 naval machine. 4 rotors now, Bigram tables shuffling letters like a devil's deck. The keys click, lamps flash, and the cipher text spits out "unbreakable," or so they believe. Back at Bletchley Park, the spring sun filters weakly through blackout curtains in Hut 8, doing little to dispel the fug of cigarette smoke and machine oil. Alan Turing slumps in a wooden chair, his shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing ink-stained arms from endless crib sheets. The room buzzes with activity. Wrens in crisp uniforms shuttle trays of tea and perforated bomb tapes, their heels clicking on the duckboards laid over muddy paths outside. The air carries the faint hum of electricity, punctuated by the clatter of adding machines. Turing's colleague, the elegant Joan Clark, 26, with sharp features and a mind sharper still, leans over a replica Enigma, her fingers probing the plugboard. "The 4th rotor's the beast," she says softly, her voice laced with quiet determination. "Rajewski's permutations help, but naval traffic's shorter, fewer letters to crib." Across the hut, Gordon Welchman confers with a Polish émigré liaison, Captain Stefan Meyer, who arrived via Lisbon just weeks ago with fresh cyclometer tweaks smuggled from Vichy, France. Meyer, mid-30s, with a neatly trimmed moustache and eyes haunted by Warsaw's fall, unrolls a blueprint on the table. Rajewski's equations treat the Enigma as a cyclic group. "We've refined the bomber for the M4. Test menus can cut time from days to hours." Welchman nods, rubbing his chin, the scratch of stubble audible in the hush. Outside, lorries rumble, delivering new bombs from the Dollis Hill workshops. 8-drum behemoths, relays snapping like jaws. The first full naval break came in March. A U-boat supply rendezvous decrypted, HMS Edinburgh intercepting and sinking the disguised tanker. Ultra's code word now binds them all. Eyes only for the top brass, the secret guarded fiercer than the crown jewels. Flash to Algiers, where Marian Rajewski toils in a sun-baked villa requisitioned by Free French intelligence. The Mediterranean breeze carries the scent of olive groves and distant gunfire from Vichy skirmishes, but inside, the room is a fortress of graphs and slide rules. At 36, Rajewski's hair is thinning, his frame wiry from sparse rations. He sketches furiously on yellowed paper, the pencil's rasp echoing his isolation, Zygalski nearby in a similar outpost, Rojicki's absence a shadow. A courier bursts in, sweat-soaked. "British decrypt saved a convoy last month. Your work." Rajewski pauses, a rare smile cracking his face. "The permutations hold. Tell Bertrand to push the Bigram solutions." But doubt gnaws. German traffic surges, Enigma upgraded with extra plugs. He imagines the Atlantic's graves, his math a delayed salvation. June 1941. Operation Barbarossa erupts, diverting Luftwaffe Enigma to the Eastern Front, a windfall for Bletchley. Turing's team feasts on army keys, predicting panzer thrusts, but naval remains the prize. In Hut 4, Naval Section Head Frank Birch orchestrates the flow. Intercepts from Y stations at Ventnor and Beaumanoir arrive in burlap sacks, perforated by Hollerith sorters. "Weather shorts are the crib gold mine," Birch declares to his staff, pipe smoke wreathing his head like a halo. A young wren, Dorothy Hilton, threads a tape into a bomb. Drums accelerate, menus whirring through 10,000 possibilities. Success. A decrypt reveals U-boat refueling off Greenland. RAF Catalinas bomb the tender, denying fuel to 3 packs. Yet victories are fragile. Dönitz, in his Lorient bunker, pores over returns, the concrete walls echoing with teletype clacks. "Enigma holds," he assures Admiral Raeder, but anomalies prick, convoys evading traps. He orders key changes twice monthly, Bigrams randomized. Back on the Bulldog, Baker's hunt intensifies. Aztec pings echo through the hull as depth charges rumble off the fantail, geysers erupting amid the rain. Wolfarth's U-556 surfaces briefly for air, periscope whipping around. Too late. A hedgehog mortar from HMS Broadway spatters the sea with 65 projectiles. One strikes true, buckling the pressure hull. Wolfarth orders abandoned ship, his crew scrambling into the chill waves, Enigma machines sinking with them, rotors frozen in defeat. The convoy presses on, HX 126 unscathed, its holds groaning under preserved life. Riley stands watch till dawn, the sky lightening to pearl, a pod of dolphins breaking the surface like celebrants. In Liverpool, as the ships dock amid cheering crowds, Captain Baker wires Admiralty. Ultra gold, pack scattered. At Bletchley, Turing receives the confirm, allowing himself a cup of untouched tea. Rejewski's legacy deepens, Polish math woven into British steel. But the wolf packs multiply, 250 boats now prowling. Churchill paces Whitehall, maps alight with pins. Tonnage sunk still climbs, Ultra's edge sharpening slowly. The Battle of the Atlantic teeters. Equations versus torpedoes, the unbreakable cracking under persistent assault. December 1941. The frozen decks of HMS Audacity, a makeshift escort carrier slicing through the midnight black waters of the North Atlantic, 500 miles northwest of the Azores. Gale-force winds whip across the flight deck, carrying the sharp sting of spray that freezes on contact with exposed skin, turning mustaches to icicles and eyelashes to brittle fringes. You can hear the relentless howl through the superstructure, mingling with the thunderous roar of the single Merlin engine driving the ship at 18 knots, her hull groaning under the assault of 30-foot swells. Commander Frederick Walker, a hawk-eyed 45-year-old with a face weathered like old oak from years chasing shadows, stands on the bridge, binoculars pressed to his eyes, the cold metal biting into his palms. His breath forms fleeting clouds in the dim red glow of the binnacle, illuminating the chart where grease pencil marks trace convoy HG-76. 24 merchantmen loaded with Spanish iron ore and Gibraltar-bound munitions, shadowed by 9 Flower-class corvettes and the Audacity's handful of Sea Hurricane fighters. Ultra plot confirms Wolfpack assembly, Grid B-53. Walker mutters to his first officer, Lieutenant Peter Gretton, whose uniform is sodden despite the oilskins. The decrypt arrived via secure WT just hours ago from the Admiralty's Citadel in Liverpool. Raw intelligence from Bletchley, stamped with the forbidden word, Ultra. No explanations, just coordinates, boat numbers, U-108, U-574, perhaps a dozen more under Kapitan Lieutenant Eric Topp's iron command. Walker's task force, codenamed Force H, fans out in a protective screen, Aztec domes humming beneath the waves, pinging for the metallic echoes of submerged steel. The air inside the bridge reeks of wet wool, hot oil from the generators, and the faint, acrid whiff of cordite from practice drills. Below, in the hangar, ground crew in earmuffs wrestle with the Hurricane's undercarriages, the deck vibrating as the carrier pitches violently. Far to the east, in the windowless depths of Bletchley Park's Hut 8, the winter chill seeps under the doors despite the pot-belly stove's belching coal smoke that clings to clothing like a second skin. It's the 7th night of a grueling shift. The room pulses with the frantic clatter of typewriters and the staccato whine of Bombays, now a dozen machines, their drums whirring in orchestrated fury, relays snapping like distant gunfire. Alan Turing, gaunt at 29 from chain-smoking and skipped meals, hunches over a console, his fingers stained black from carbon paper as he adjusts a menu card for the latest crib, gib from a Gibraltar supply signal. The air is thick with the ozone tang of overworked electrics and the bitter steam of stewed tea in chipped mugs. Joan Clark, her hair pinned back severely, threads a fresh tape into the beastly apparatus, her movements precise amid the chaos. Naval M4 key for the 10th. Bigram shuffle on the 4th rotor, she says quietly to Turing, her voice steady over the mechanical din. Rejewski's cyclic permutations narrowed it to 336 possibilities. We're through in under 6 hours. Across the partition, Gordon Welchman paces, his footsteps muffled on the sawdust-strewn floor, a fresh decrypt clutched in his fist. The Polish émigré's refinements, smuggled updates from Rejewski via Lisbon couriers, have turbocharged the process. Cyclometer-derived grids now feed directly into the bombs, slashing decryption time from days to hours. Pearl Harbor changes everything, Welchman tells his deputy, the words heavy with implication. December 7th shockwave ripples through the war. America enters, her vast resources flooding in. More Y stations in Newfoundland, IBM sorters for traffic analysis, and promises of American bombs from Jack Good's blueprints. But for now, Ultra's burden falls on these few. Intercepts pouring in from Chicksands, 5,000 messages daily, naval traffic a priority as Donitz's packs swell to 250 boats, sinking 500,000 tons monthly. A success sparks. Lamps align on the replica Enigma, decoding U-434's weather short into plain text. Convoy route predicted, evasion plotted. In Algiers, under a merciless sun that bakes the whitewashed walls of his guarded villa, Marian Rejewski labors in stifling heat, the room's fan stirring papers heavy with equations rather than cooling the sweat trickling down his back. At 37, his eyes are shadowed from endless nights, the scent of ink and dry figs from a market basket the only respite. A Vichy liaison, Colonel Bertrand's man, delivers a sealed packet, British thanks, veiled references to saved tonnage. Rejewski unfolds it, tracing the curves of rotor wirings he'd mapped a decade ago. The group's hold, he murmurs to Henrik Zygalski, who shares the space, his own sketches piling up. Adaptations for the Germans' new UKWD reflector. News of Pearl Harbor crackles over a hidden radio. Roosevelt's voice, defiant. Allies unite, Zygalski says, lighting a Gauloise, the smoke curling like hope. Their exile bites deeper, Rojicki's death still raw, but Rejewski presses on, refining Bigram tables, unaware his math now arms destroyers half a world away. Back on the Audacity, dawn breaks grey and unforgiving, the storm easing to a sullen chop. Walker's voice crackles over the TBS radio. All ships, Vector 340, intercepts show U-574 closing from starboard. The convoy tightens formation, merchant captains sweating in their wheelhouses as corvettes like HMS Samphire dart forward, snowflake projectors ready to dazzle torpedoes. Suddenly, alarms wail, ASDIC contact, 2,000 yards. U-574, under Oberleutnant Hans-Karl Kosbat, surges to attack depth, her torpedoes, G7E electric fish, silent and wakeless, racing toward the tanker SS Clan McWhirter. But Ultra's foreknowledge shifts the odds. Walker anticipates, ordering a hard starboard turn. The fish miss by yards, bubbling past the keel with a muffled rush. Chaos erupts. HMS Blankney charges, her hedgehog mortars spitting 24 projectiles in a deadly circle, explosions blooming underwater like fiery flowers. You feel the shockwaves through the hull, the sea heaving as if alive. Kosbat's boat shudders, lights flickering in the control room. He blows tanks, surfacing in a froth of foam and oil. Audacity's Hurricane, piloted by Sub-Lieutenant Peter Cowles, roars overhead. 303 guns chattering, stitching the conning tower. Crewmen spill out, waving white rags against the dawn light, the metallic tang of blood mixing with diesel on the waves. Blankney closes, ramming the U-boat's stern with a grinding crunch. Then depth charges seal the fate, bow sections crumpling, the hull splitting like tin. By midday, 2 more packs, U-108 and U-434, scatter under relentless pursuit. Their enigma boasts of easy prey, unraveling into frantic distress calls, decrypted in real time at Bletchley. HG-76 reaches Gibraltar intact, its ore-feeding tank factories, munitions arming Spitfires. Walker docks amid fanfare, but his report to Admiralty is terse. Ultra-decisive. Recommend more bombs. In Lorient, Dönitz slams a fist on his desk, the bunker air stale with frustration, teletype halting on garbled keys. Reroute all traffic, new procedures, he barks. But anomalies mount, convoys vanishing like mist. At Bletchley, Turing collapses into a cot as the shift ends, the hut emptying to the crunch of gravel underfoot. Clark covers him with a blanket, whispering, "One more crack, and the Atlantic's ours." Rejewski in Algiers senses the shift in a courier's urgent nod. Tonnage saved climbs, wolfpacks thinning. Yet winter convoys still bleed. SC-118 loses 14 ships days later, Ultra's edge blunted by weather and delays. The codebreakers' war intensifies, mathematics clashing with the sea's fury, the unbreakable yielding to relentless logic. America pours in, bombers multiplying like rabbits. But Dönitz adapts, Enigma's shadows lengthening even as they fade. The battle pivots, Rejewski's ghost in every decrypt, convoys no longer untouchable ghosts. March 1942. The steel-grey expanse of the western approaches 400 miles south of Greenland. Towering waves, whipped by a howling nor'wester, crash over the bow of HMS Harvester, a sturdy Hunt-class destroyer slicing through the froth at 25 knots. You can taste the brine on your lips, sharp and unending, as the wind shrieks through the rigging, tugging at the oilskins of the watch on the open bridge. Commander James Rolls, 42, with a jaw set like granite and eyes squinting against the spray, grips the voice tube, his gloved hand numb from the cold. The air reeks of diesel exhaust and wet canvas. Below, the Yarrow boilers thrum with urgent heat, steam hissing from valves, strained by the storm's fury. Convoy 67, 21 merchant ships heavy with American Lend-Lease tanks, aviation fuel, and crated aircraft, straggles behind in a loose diamond, their silhouettes blurred by the driving rain, escorted by a thin screen of 6 destroyers and a lone sloop. Admiralty Flash, Wolfpack redesignated Group Hecht, Grid CG-98, U-202, U-588, 10 confirmed. Rowles snaps to his navigating officer, Lieutenant Ellis, who marks the plot with a trembling pencil, the chart table slick under the red-shaded lamp. Ultra's decrypts have become a lifeline since winter's thaw. Bletchley's naval breaks now routine. Rejewski's permutations evolved into Turing's diagonal boards, cracking the M4's 4th rotor in under 4 hours on good days. But Dönitz counters fiercely. February's new procedures layer enigma with dummy traffic and irregular key changes, muddying the flow. Rowles exhales fog, remembering the January sinkings. SC-64 lost 7 ships before Ultra rerouted the rest. Signal the van, tighten to 500 yards, hedgehogs hot. In the dim glow of Harvester's Asdic hut, forward of the bridge, Petty Officer Wally Finch hunches over the console, the set's Type 144 pinging echoes off the curved bulkheads. The room vibrates with every roll, gauges flickering green as hydrophone effects trace faint propeller beats, U-boats idling on batteries, conserving diesel for the kill. Contact bearing 220, range 3,000, sir. Hydrophone effect only, Finch reports, his voice tinny over the intercom, sweat beading despite the chill. Outside, the sea heaves, white foam boiling around the destroyer's knife-edge bow. Tommy Riley, now a grizzled leading torpedo man at 24, mans the depth charge racks on the quarterdeck, his hands raw from handling the wet TNT canisters, each 300 pounds primed with contact fuses. Salt crusts his beard. He shouts to Mac, lashed to the rail nearby, "Bletchley's feeding us gold again, no more blind runs." Mac nods, securing a charge, the wind tearing his words away. "Aye, but these bastards learn quick." Deep below the waves, aboard U-202 under Kapitän Lieutenant Hans-Heinz Linder, the control room hums with tension at 200 feet, the pressure hull creaking under the ocean's weight. Red lighting bathes the faces of the crew. Bearded watchstanders hunched over the attack periscope well, the air thick with the sour reek of unwashed bodies, battery acid and chlorine from leaky cells. Linder, 30, lean and intense with a dueling scar on his cheek, peers into the Uzi-O trainer, the rubber eyepiece fogging slightly. "Enigma report. Convoy speed 7 knots, zigzagging erratic," he orders the radio man, who hunches over the naval Enigma, rotors whirring as he encodes the grid reference, AJ-45, layered with a fresh bigram table to foil intercepts. The machine's lamps blink erratically, ciphertext punching onto tape with a staccato clack. "Send priority to BDU, convoy in sight." Linder's boat, one of 15 in Hecht, circles warily. Recent losses gnaw at morale. 5 sunk last month, crews whispering of hex in the wires. At Bletchley Park, spring mud squelches under the boots of arriving shifts as a weak sun pierces the budding oaks encircling the estate. Inside Hut 8, the air buzzes with the relentless grind of 14 bombs now. Their 8-foot frames crammed wall to wall, drums accelerating in a symphony of whirs and snaps that rattles the teacups on makeshift desks. Alan Turing, his tie askew and a half-eaten apple forgotten beside him, leans against a partition, watching Joan Clark calibrate a diagonal board. A Polish-inspired innovation. Grids of wirings mimicking Rejewski's cyclometers to shortcut rotor hunts. The room smells of hot bakelite, spilled ink, and the faint floral note of Clark's soap amid the male-dominated fug. "The bigrams are shifting. Donitz's march order," Turing murmurs, his voice weary but sharp, scribbling a menu on graph paper. Shafts of light filter through khaki curtains, illuminating stacks of traffic analysis. 6,000 intercepts daily, sorted by Hollerith punch cards from the new American-supplied sorters. Gordon Welchman bursts in from the corridor, his overcoat dripping meltwater, clutching a teletype flimsy hot from the OIC, Operational Intelligence Center. On 67 confirmed, Hecht's forming off Newfoundland. Your break on U-587's weather short gave us the key at 0400. Clark nods, threading tape into a bomb. The machine growls to life, menus cycling through 336 permutations derived from Rejewski's group theory, now augmented by Turing's cribs like tanker from supply queries. Success cascades. Within minutes, a full decrypt unravels U-202's position report, coordinates beaming to the Citadel via secure landline. Outside, a lorry idles ready to rush updates to Whitehall. The park's paths are pocked with craters from wartime digs, sentries patrolling with Stain guns slung low. In Algiers, the harbour's clamour, horns blaring from corvettes, gulls wheeling over fish markets, filters into Marian Rejewski's cramped office in a requisitioned warehouse where the sea's iodine tang mixes with the musty scent of stacked ledgers. At 38, Rejewski pores over a captured Enigma frame, his fingers tracing plugboard leads under a naked bulb swinging from the rafters. Zygalski, across the scarred table, adjusts a makeshift cyclometer, drums of bakelite and wire, humming faintly on scavenged batteries. A British liaison, Major Ellis Barker, arrives unannounced, his desert boots tracking sand. "Your refinements saved on 67 already, harvesters vectoring in." Rejewski looks up, glasses slipping, a flicker of vindication in his eyes. The fourth rotor's cycles. Tell Turing to wait the menus for even bigrams. Barker nods, sealing notes in a diplomatic pouch. Outside, Allied convoys steam past, Meta-class tankers safe under Ultra's gaze. Rozhicky's ghost lingers in the equations, but Rejewski presses, adapting to Dönitz's feints, dummy keys, traffic floods. Back in the Atlantic, Harvester charges the contact, her screws cavitating as rolls bellows, fire 1 through 5, pattern alpha. Hedgehog mortars whoosh, 65 spigot bombs arcing in a deadly rosette, plunging with muffled thuds. Underwater U-202 reels, a near miss buckles a plate, leaks spraying. Linda floods forward, the boat nosing up in desperation. Riley triggers the depth charges, 8 rolling off the K-guns with explosive splashes, geysers towering like white giants. The sea erupts in fury, shockwaves slamming the hulls. U-202 surfaces in a maelstrom of foam, her deck gun crew scrambling for the 80-10 emitters but cut down by Harvester's Ehrlichons, tracers stitching the night. By dawn, Hecht fractures. 3 U-boats depth charged to the bottom, their Enigma logs pulped in the depths. On 67 limps into St. John's intact, holds brimming, workers cheering from the docks as Riley disembarks, Mac clapping his back. In Lorient, Dönitz pores over ghost returns, the bunker lit by harsh fluorescence, his face ashen. Enigma compromised. Impossible. He doubles procedures, keys thrice weekly, short signals banned, but the tide ebbs. At Bletchley, Turing toasts with weak sherry as Clark confirms the kill. Rejewski's math unbreakable no more. Ultra surges, convoys threading the needle, wolfpacks bleeding out. Yet May looms with Black Gap threats. Dönitz's 300 boats a gathering storm. The Code War escalates, permutations clashing with torpedoes, the Atlantic's graves filling slower. Rejewski's exile yielding to victory's slow dawn. May 1943. The churning maelstrom of the North Atlantic, 700 miles west of the Hebrides, where the Gulf Stream clashes with the Labrador Current in a frenzy of 40-foot waves that rear like living beasts under a sky bruised purple by perpetual storm. You can feel the bone-deep shudder as the destroyer HMS Starling slices through the chaos, her pennant number H-26 etched in frost on the spray-lashed bridge wings. Commander Frederick John Walker, now Johnny to his crew, the legendary U-boat killer at 48, his frame gaunt but unyielding, face etched with the scars of 2 years' relentless hunts, clings to the Pelorus, wind tearing at his duffel coat like claws. Salt stings your eyes, mingling with the acrid bite of funnel smoke whipping astern, while below, the Parsons' geared turbines scream at full revolutions, propellers thrashing foam that glows phosphorescent in the half-light of false dawn. Convoy ONS-5, 42 merchantmen groaning under 300,000 tons of vital war materiel, Sherman tanks, mustard gas shells, and aviation spirit from U.S. yards, huddles in a tight box, their masts swaying like metronomes of doom. Escorted by Walker's second support group, Starling, her sisters HMS Wild Goose, Wren and Wimbrel, plus the frigate HMS Loch Fada. The formation zigzags desperately, funnels belching black against the gale. Ultra confirms Group Star, 14 boats, U-707 leading from grid DD-42. Walker growls into the voice pipe, his voice raw from shouting over the gale's roar. The decrypt arrived at midnight via WT from the Citadel, terse and vital. Positions, fuel states, attack vectors, Bletchley's gift, Rejewski's permutations distilled through 2 years of Turing's refinements, now cracking the M4 naval enigma in mere hours, despite Dönitz's frantic upgrades. Extra rotors, shark fins on hulls for speed, and short signal bands that only slowed the flood of intercepts. In Starling's plot, Lieutenant Ralph Griffiths, Walker's sharp-eyed first officer, 32, with ink-smeared fingers from constant charting, updates the attack board under the binnacle's red glow, the air thick with the tang of wet charts and hot brass from the WT set. They're closing from astern, sir, U-465 and U-432 probing the flanks. Outside, the sea boils, rain sheeting horizontally, turning the world to a blur of grey. Able seaman Tommy Riley, 27 now. A battle-hardened gunner with an Iron Cross scar from a boarding action last summer, mans the squid ahead, throwing mortars on the forecastle, his oilskins creaking as he heaves 60-pound projectiles into the racks. Salt crusts his whiskers. He yells to old Mac, lashed beside him on the twin Oerlikon. Bletchley's got their knickers in a twist this time. Whole pack plotted like a bloody map. Mac, greying at the temples, grins fiercely, chambering rounds. Rejewski's ghost again. No more ghosts for us. 600 miles east, in the subterranean hum of Bletchley Park's Block F, newly expanded with American concrete and humming with 50 bombs, their 8-drum colossi whirring like a mechanical orchestra under khaki blackout shades. The air vibrates with urgency. It's the 4th, and the hut reeks of solder flux from fresh wiring jobs, mingled with the sharp ozone of high-voltage relays and the ever-present fog of players' cigarettes. Alan Turing, 31, paces the duckboard floor in a rumpled cardigan, his once youthful face hollowed by stimulants and secrecy, glasses fogged from the steam of a communal kettle. He pauses at a console where Joan Clark, now 30, married in name only to preserve her job, her intellect a quiet force, supervises a run on the latest crib, fuel from a U-boat supply query, fed into the diagonal board grids born of Rejewski's cyclometer math. The Bigram tables are fracturing, Turing says, voice clipped, scribbling a permutation shortcut on a slate. Drums accelerate, menus flashing through 1,000 settings per minute. Polish group theory, Turing's logic, American punch card sorters converging to decrypt 90% of naval traffic daily. Gordon Welchman, head of the government code and cipher school, bursts from the corridor, overcoat slung over his arm, clutching a fistful of flimsies hot from the teleprinter. The room's tension spikes. Outside, the spring night presses against the windows, muffled by sandbags. ONS-5 is gold, star groups forming off Nova Scotia. Your break on U-707's position gave Walker the vector at 0200. A Polish liaison, fresh from Anglo-American briefings, nods gravely. Rejewski's latest refinements, smuggled via Cairo that winter, adapting for the Germans' UKWB reflector, have pushed success rates to 80%. In a corner alcove, Max Newman oversees the Newmanry, Colossus prototypes, valve-driven behemoths, the world's first computers, churning army keys. But naval remains the crown. 10,000 messages cracked last month. Wolf packs plotted like chess pieces. Half a world away, in a dusty Algiers annex, amid the clamour of Allied build-up, jeeps rumbling past date palms, the harbour alive with Liberty ships, Marian Rejewski, 39. hunches over a trestle table in a room lit by a hissing pressure lamp, the air heavy with the scent of oiled leather from stacked Enigma replicas and the faint jasmine from an open window. His hands, calloused from years of exile, trace wiring diagrams on graph paper, Zygalski at his side, murmuring adjustments for Donitz's April feints, dummy traffic floods, key overlaps. A OSS courier, American now in the mix, slaps down a report. Your cycles saved ONS-5, 14 boats routed before they struck. Rejewski's eyes, behind thickening lenses, light with quiet fire. The permutations endure. Tell them the fourth rotor's bias. Wait for odd, even pairs. Zygalski lights a cigarette, the flame flickering like the war's turning. Pearl Harbor's alliance has funneled resources, US bombs arriving by the score, Rejewski's math their spine. No longer ghosts, the Poles consult via secure cable, their work etching victory in code. Back in the Atlantic, Starling charges the shadows, Azdic pings, slicing the storm like knives, Type Toon 71 sets, upgraded with American tech, echoing U-465's diesel throb at 1,500 yards. Walker bellows, "Squid salvo, fire!" The mortars thunder, 12 projectiles hurtling 275 yards ahead in a lethal pattern, plunging with geysers that dwarf the waves. Underwater, Kapitan-Leutnant Gerhard Teichmann, in U-465's flooded bilges, feels the hull scream. bulkheads buckling as a direct hit shreds the conning tower. "Oberflächen! Blow all!" he chokes, crew scrambling through leaks, the Enigma tumbling into the abyss, its rotors stilled. Wild Goose closes, ramming the bow with a metallic shriek, Oerlikons raking the deck. Survivors hauled aboard, sodden and defeated, their tales of cursed wires spilling in broken English. By midday, the pack unravels. U-707 depth charged to 600 feet by Wren's hedgehogs, her pressure hull imploding in a muffled roar. U-432 surfaced and strafed by Wild Goose's guns, flames licking the sea. Ultra's precision turns ambush to slaughter. 6 boats sunk in 48 hours, the rest scattering fuel-starved to French pens, their Wolfpack tactics shattered. ONS-5 steams into the western approaches unscathed, holds intact, Riley toasting with Mac in the mess as Liverpool's lights beckon, to the Mathematician who broke the unbreakable. In Lorient's fortified pens, Dönitz stares at the butcher's bill. Tonnage inflicted halved since 42, boats lost 80 monthly. His bunker air stale with defeat. Enigmas betrayed. He scraps the machine for one-time pads, but too late. Ultra floods the pipes, predicting every sortie. At Bletchley, Turing receives Walker's signal. Star Group annihilated, and allows a rare exhale, Clark squeezing his shoulder amid the whir. Rajewski in Algiers hears the echoes. Wolfpack sunk, years shaved from the war. D-Day's beaches secured by safe supplies, Normandy's push fueled by unbroken lines. The Polish exiles' equations, sown in Warsaw snows, reap the Atlantic's harvest. Convoys untouchable no more. The tide irrevocably turned.